Hi friends, I'm Abby and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing these books will self-destruct in 12 months if I do not read them by this time in May next year. This is a video concept that I've seen on a few people's channels, but originally I think it was on Becca from Becca and the Books channel, where she chats through some books that she has had in her TBR for a long time, and if she doesn't read them within the next 12 months, then she needs to unhaul them, because obviously you've had them for so long and you have made every intention to read them, you've not read them, and so are you actually that interested in them, and should you be keeping them on your TBR? That's what this pile of books is today. My TBR I think is relatively reasonable, but I want to keep working on getting it down. I have about 70 odd books on my TBR as of point in time, so 75-ish books, and my aim is to get it to 50 by the end of the year. So I have been trying to make sure that I am having a conscious effort when buying books this year, and that I am trying to read through my physical TBR and get it down. Now, my physical TBR, I'd say 75 books is reasonable, but hopefully 50 will be more reasonable for me. Your TBR can be whatever size, no judgment if your TBR is 10 books or if your TBR is 400 books, it's whatever works for you. Personally, for me, I would prefer a TBR under 50, just for my own peace of mind and the way that my brain functions, potentially, that I feel like it's been slightly overwhelming me, and I want to be able to get it a bit lower down. And as part of my TBR, I have books that I have hauled in the last 6 months, and I have books that I hauled in 2017. So there is a whole variety of books that I've had on there, some of them for a very, very long time, and some of them will stay there for probably a long time. Like I bought Name of the Wind back in 2017, 2018, and that book is still on my TBR, and it will remain there until we get news about the third book. And I know we got some news this week where he's writing a novella, and that's coming out at the end of the year, but that's not the third book. So that book will just remain there until the King Killer Chronicles is finished. And there's other examples like that, like The Lies of Locke Lamora and things that I'm just holding on to until the series are finished and until we get more information on those series, because I've been burnt before. I got burnt by Game of Thrones. I read those 5 books 10 years ago now, and I still am waiting for the final, the 6th and 7th book. This collection is a pile of books that I typically had for a longer period of time that have sat on my TBR unread, and it would be good if I could make a decision on them. Either I read them because I did buy them, I do have the intention of reading them, or I should just unhaul them. So I have 5 here. I feel like 5 is a reasonable number for me, and this way hopefully I will endeavour to get my TBR down to 50. And I figure as well, putting them on this list will mean that I actually read these, and they don't stay on my TBR for another 5 years. So I have a variety of genres and demographics here, so I guess we'll just dive right in. I have a couple of YA books on this TBR. I am generally aging out of YA. I would say that I have nothing against reading books from that demographic. I just typically am picking up and gravitating towards adult books more and more, and I think that's very apparent with what I've been reading, with what I've been reading over the past couple of years, really, that there is less and less YA every year. In relation to that, I do still have a few YA books on my TBR, some of which I'm really, really interested in reading, and I'm not putting on this list, but some of them I feel as though I should just read them now, and if I don't read them now, then maybe the time has already passed for them, that I should have read these a few years ago, and if I read them now, am I going to really get the same level of enjoyment out of them as I would if I was reading an adult book? Firstly, I have Invictus by Ryan Graudin, which is a standalone, I think it's sci-fi. I believe that it's a time traveling story, so they're jumping through different points in time. I believe at some point they're on the Titanic in this, and I haven't heard those people really talking about it. I was excited to read it because I have read a few other books by this author. So I did read, I've read The Walled City, which was a standalone, and I've read Wolf by Wolf and Blood for Blood, which is a duology. So I have read 3 of her books in the past, and I had every intention to read this because of really enjoying her previous books, and I just haven't got to it yet. Yeah, it's a standalone, so I figure it should be really easy. It's YA, so as well, that generally means that things are faster paced. So I figure I should just read this, but I haven't, and I've had this book for 2 years. So why why haven't I read it? So I figure putting this on here will mean that I will actually prioritise and get to it. Sticking with the sort of sci-fi theme, I have The Three Body Problem by Sixin Liu, translated by Ken Liu. So this is the start of a sci-fi trilogy originally written in Chinese. I've heard that this can be a little bit confusing, I believe, or the sci-fi in it is quite intense, and that also some of the representation in here is a little bit iffy. But typically I've heard generally very good reviews from people that have got into it, enjoyed it, and enjoyed the sciencey aspects to it. I love Ken Liu and the Dandelion Dynasty that I've read by him. So I've loved his writing style by himself. I don't know how he does at translating another author's work, but Ken Liu himself, I have loved and thoroughly enjoyed his works. So I definitely want to just give this a try. I want to give it a try. I don't know how I'm going to get on with it. I feel as though I need to like just try it, test it, dip my toe into it and see how I feel, because I feel as though this could definitely be very hit and miss, that it could work for me or it could just really not work for me. And then at least I know, and now I know what I'm doing with it. Because if it doesn't work, if I read the first 100 pages and it doesn't work, then it's easy. I can just unhaul it and there's no problem. I haven't wasted any time. And the book is no longer sat there gathering dust. Back to YA, and one that has sat on my TBR for a very long time is And I Darken by Kirsten White, which is the first book in a YA trilogy following, I think it's a Vlad the Impaler retelling as though Vlad was female, so sort of a historical fantasy. And I think it doesn't really have that many fantastical elements. It's more like the alternate history side of things. And I did do a triad chapter of this probably last year maybe, and I did enjoy that first chapter, which meant that it stayed because it was a triad chapter Unhaul. I can link it. So in that I read the few first chapters of a few books, decided how I felt about those first chapters, and then if I enjoyed them I kept the book. And it was like a 50-50. Some of them I unhauled, some of them I kept, and this one I kept, having enjoyed that first chapter, but I still have not continued on and not read it. I just need to do that. Again, as this is YA, I feel as though it might have like a time, not necessarily a time limit on it, but it would be better if I read it sooner rather than later, because the more and more time that passes, I feel the less and less I will enjoy it because of my growing out of YA. I then have The Book of Night by Holly Black. So this is her first foray into adult. I've read quite a few of Holly Black's books and I have enjoyed them. So I've read like all of the Cruel Prince trilogy. I have read The Coldest Girl in Cold Town, The Darkest Part of the Forest. Was that what it was called? Like, I've read quite a few of her books and I have enjoyed them and I have found them very compulsively readable. I haven't read any of her books for quite a while, probably since the final book in the Cruel Prince trilogy came out. I don't think I've read anything by her. And this is a relatively short book. This is the Fairy Loot edition, when I was getting the Fairy Loot adult box, which I am no longer getting. I just feel as though this could be, again, hit or miss for me based on the reviews that it has got. That it hasn't had the most glowing reviews, and I think I'm going to go into it expecting it to be more on the new adult side than the adult side. I know that this is going to be a duology, and I think the second book will be coming out in 2024. So if I do enjoy it, it won't take me long to pick up the sequel. And I just feel as though if I don't read this sooner rather than later, it will just sit and gather dust. And actually it'd be better if I read it. If I enjoy it, great, I can keep the book. If not, then I'm sure that somebody somewhere will want a lovely, fancy special edition of this. And then the final one is again a duology. This one, again sci-fi, is Seven Devils by Elizabeth May and Laura Lamb. This one I've had for a little while and it has just been sat gathering dust, so I figure I should read this. I should read this and get it off of the TBR. I think it's like, yeah, fast-paced, fun sci-fi. We've got a princess that has abdicated the throne and run away, faking her own death, a resistance fighter pilot who's been given a mission. We've got the princess's brother who's planning to disrupt a peace summit, and an unlikely band of rebels. So I think it's just going to be a very fun time. I read Elizabeth May's Falconer trilogy and really liked it, which is why I think I was interested in picking this up to begin with, and then I just haven't read it. I think, as you can tell, these are all books that have been on my TBR, sat gathering dust for a little while, and I actually am just frustrated in seeing them on my TBR. I'm like, these books have been here for far too long, that I've owned them for a while, and I just need to prioritise some of the books that have been on my TBR the longest and actually get to them, because I get sucked in by the hype, I get sucked in by the new shiny things, and actually I need to go back and read some of the things that I have owned for quite a while and give them some priority every now and again, as opposed to reading the new shiny things. So here is a stack of books which will self-destruct in 12 months, and I really hope in 12 months time that I have read these. I will check in 12 months to see if I have read these books and how I've got on with them, because then I can be held accountable for making sure that I read these and love them, hopefully, or unhaul them if necessary, because ideally all of the books by TBR I'm going to love. That is the aim, the plan, the hope, that I'm going to love everything that I own, but that is not always the case. So there we go. Let me know if you have any books on your TBR that have been languishing there for quite a while that you need to give some priority, and maybe this will give you the incentive as well to get to some of the books that you have been passing by and letting them gather dust. So yes, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my future videos. Bye!